post by Volodymyr Zelensky. Rustem Umerov reported on his latest contacts with the American side. We are not losing a single day. An agreement has been reached for a high-level meeting with President Trump in the near future. A lot could be decided before the new year. Glory to Ukraine. Once again, I draw your attention to the penultimate sentence. A lot could be decided before the new year. Next, we will analyze what exactly a lot means, what could be decided refers to, and why specifically before the new year. By the way, there had been rumors up until today that Volodymyr Zelensky's meeting with Donald Trump could take place before the end of this week. Now, the publication Axios is naming the exact date. And Kyiv Post, by the way, came out with the same headline stating that the meeting will take place before the new year and that it will indeed happen on the 28th. So this Sunday, which in principle is what stands out in this news. So the journalists from this publication also remind us, by the way, that Donald Trump made a statement about a couple of weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, that any meeting with the Ukrainian president can only take place when, roughly speaking, Ukraine wins again, right? When there is concrete progress, first of all, and secondly, a clear willingness to compromise on Kyiv's part. When Trump personally feels that a breakthrough has occurred and only finalization is needed. Today, Axios writes that Trump has agreed to this meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky. And Volodymyr Zelensky, in turn, reports that a lot could change. Let me show you again. A lot could be decided in the near future before the new year. In fact, this means, well, some kind of breakthrough story is emerging. What exactly is the breakthrough story that both Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky have in mind? If they decided to meet, then maybe there is an answer. Well, as an option in this Axios publication, what exactly is the answer? It says, within this material, it is stated that the Russian Federation has allegedly agreed to a major ceasefire to allow for a referendum in Ukraine on the territorial issue. Did you hear that? A referendum on the territorial issue, which, according to the sources of this publication, Ukraine is planning to organize in the near future if the peace agreement is finalized in its current form. And for this, Ukraine will need 60 days. You might ask, is there any official statement from the Russian Federation on this matter? No, there is no official statement, but this American publication is writing something about it. In this case, there is another statement regarding the territorial issue. And it's not so much a statement as it is more of a speech, actually, which is published in the Kommersant publication, the Russian version of this outlet, of course. But you know, this is an intelligence-related story. So, at a meeting with representatives of Russian business, Putin once again started talking about the so-called heroic special military operation and about Donbas, which he claims is originally Russian land. And it was stated quite literally that the issue of Donbas is absolutely not up for discussion, since Russia considers it a matter of principle and closed, whether by military or diplomatic means. Donbas, specifically places like Vuzel and Kramatorsk, were mentioned. The Rosko-Slavyansk-Kostiantynivka area must be liberated and incorporated into the Russian Federation. De jure, this has already happened. You remember this story, but de facto, it still needs to be done. In other words, the Ukrainian Defense Forces must liberate this area, the Kramatorsk-Slavyansk-Kostiantynivka area. That's exactly what Putin stated, and this is reported in Kommersant. As for other territories, Putin noted that there are options there. And this was also pointed out by a source for this publication, that this was mentioned as well. Next, Putin is considering options for withdrawal, or rather, for the withdrawal of the Russian army from those territories they currently occupy. That is, it could be Sumy region, it could be Kharkiv region, it could be Dnipropetrovsk region. That's the kind of story that's taking shape. There's also a statement from Peskov, who confirms that the Kremlin has already analyzed the 20-point document that Dmitriev brought. And this document apparently includes Kiev's amendments and Brussels as well. So this document has been analyzed and a decision has been made. The decision comes down to the fact that the Kremlin is ready to continue the dialogue. So we're moving forward. And against this backdrop, today it has become known that most likely a meeting will take place on Sunday. So in general, how does President Volodymyr Zelensky assess the readiness of the peace agreement? He also answered this question. Here's an audio excerpt.
The plan we've been working on is 90% ready. Our task is to make sure everything is 100% ready. It's not easy, and no one is saying that 100% will happen right away. But nonetheless, with every such meeting, with every such conversation, we must bring the desired result closer.
Volodymyr Zelensky also confirmed that a meeting with Donald Trump will take place soon, on December 28th, and even briefly shared with journalists in this audio format what exactly might be discussed. Here are the main statements from Volodymyr Zelensky. At the meeting with Trump, they will discuss security guarantees and the reconstruction of Ukraine. They will also talk about the issue of territories and the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. We understand that the issues of territories, number one, and number two, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, are the most fundamental, where there are disagreements. When Volodymyr Zelensky gives his assessment that 90% of the plan is ready, let's break down the 20 points. That makes 100%. So 2 points correspond to 10%. 2 points. The territories in point number two. That's either guarantees or the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Next, the 20-point peace plan is 90% ready, and Ukraine's task is to finish it. Ukraine is satisfied with the plan's provision for the armed forces to number 800,000 in peacetime. Ukraine has not received an official response from Russia regarding the peace plan, but we know that the Kremlin has analyzed it. Citing Dmitry Peskov, it was stated that the dialogue continues. The agreement with the United States on security guarantees is almost ready. Whether it will be signed or not depends on how the meeting in Mar-a-Lago goes. Zelensky believes that this document is already on the table. That is, to assign the territories to the EU. European partners may join the meeting online regarding the elections. The initiative to raise the issue of elections comes from the United States. Legislative capabilities are needed for this. Security. The partners have every opportunity either to force Russia to guarantee security for holding elections or a referendum. And I bring you back to the Axios publication, which emphasized that, according to their sources, the Russian Federation is considering the possibility of a ceasefire for up to 60 days in order to hold a referendum. But the situation here is rather confusing. That is, if they agree to a referendum, it means they are confident in its outcome. Highly doubtful. If they agree to some kind of truce and want a referendum, does it mean they're just testing the waters with this story? How far are Volodymyr Zelensky and Ukraine willing to go to arrange something like this? If they want a truce, it means that military actions are not stopping. Then what kind of elections can there be if the war isn't stopping? That's an interesting question too. So it's rather confusing, this whole story. I think it's more about guarantees here. Guarantees that Ukraine will actually do it. But there's another story from the publication Le Monde, and we've talked about this, it's in my reviews, where they write that the referendum can be changed by a decision of parliament, just by some document ratified by the Ukrainian parliament. That's all there is to it. No truce is needed for anything. Is this a breakthrough story or not? But it's a backup plan. Everyone always talks about having a comprehensive backup plan. What are your thoughts on this particular kind of backup plan? Just look at this. It's quite interesting. I want to share with you something important that has been weighing on my mind, and I feel it's time to convey this crucial information. The rhetoric is cool, really good. The facts are there. They've picked some very serious ones. But I just I don't believe it. I don't believe Lindsey Graham and the 85 senators who, of course, wrote a very good and powerful bill, that it can actually be implemented right now. Trump's task is a peace deal for the holidays. That's his goal. Obviously, this was a difficult and quite ambitious task. But as Bob Woodward wrote in his book, War, Trump's credo is to punch and push through, to try things intuitively. That's exactly what Donald Trump is doing today. I agree with Bob Woodward on this point. Lindsey Graham probably hasn't read this book, which is why he thinks he can just escalate things like this right now. I think there's still a chance, maybe 10%, to finish this without it. A serious escalation because the game is about raising the stakes in the opposite direction. What is meant is the Russian Federation's expectations regarding something very significant. For example, the complete lifting of sanctions. And then I could believe that Putin would agree to this peace agreement with the amendments that Dmitry presented to him,